The Los Angeles Dodgers owner, Mark Walter. We have to talk about it. We have to. We cannot talk about stories in sport without talking about Mark Walter and Guggenheim, TWG, because it touches everything that we discuss every single day. And so we have to fully understand. I did this really as an exercise for me, but I'm going to share with you the things that I learned. To start, Mark Walter has not been charged with any crime, full stop. Investigations can and do end with no charges. Let's say that one more time. Mark Walter has not been charged with any crime. FBI took his laptop and his phone. Doesn't mean he's charged with a crime. Investigations can and do end with no charges. Okay? So we're not accusing anybody of anything. I am sharing with you the reporting that has been done by Jeff Passan and ESPN, Bloomberg, Forbes, New York Times. There's really good reporting on this because it's a business story, it's a sports story, and it touches on business as an asset, sport franchise as an asset. And that's important. That's a conversation that we have to have on our show because it's the show about business, the intersection between business, technology, policy, labor, entrepreneurship. So we have to talk about it because it ties into all of these things. We're also going to talk about the 2014 lawsuit a bit with Mark Walter and the organization and whistleblower complaints and all these things. It's a civil complaint. It's language, cash machine, over $1 billion in policyholder funds. Like, again, from the reporting, it's an allegation, like, from that original complaint and, like, recent news that has been done and reporting that has been gathered on this. None of it has been proven, like, in court. Like, there has been no... So some of this stuff is, like, alleged. Some of it is, like, part of reporting. The original complaint was withdrawn the day after filing, dismissed without prejudice, and per the forensic accountant who built it, later settled. When you quote it, when we quote these things, we have to say alleged because we're not accusing anybody of anything. We're just reporting what we are sharing with you, what has been reported. Okay, that's my disclosure. TWG Global, TWG, like it's not the Walter Group, something Walter, something. But they part own Guggenheim, and Guggenheim is like the thing that owns other things, and TWG owns other things. Their public position, per reporting, is that it is cooperating with authorities, and there's no reporting that says otherwise. They are confident that matters will resolve favorably, right? So the thing to note, full disclaimer, and like when we're having conversations is on the record, I have to say it. We are not lawyers or financial advisors. We're reading the public record and reported facts and telling you why it matters, like, to our audience and to our conversation. Anything we're guessing at, I will say when I am guessing at something. Full disclosure. And so today, like, we're doing something we've never done before. We always do a bunch of different topics, what's going on in sport. Today on a Wednesday, early in the morning, we're going to do our one story. Because it's the biggest story in sport and sport business right now, and business right now. It's not a trade or a contract. It's a question about where the money to buy players, to buy teams, where it's coming from. The man at the center owns the Dodgers. He bought the Lakers last year and is already selling them for a record $12.5 billion. When he bought the Dodgers for $2 billion, it was the largest sale of a professional sports team, I think, ever. At $2 billion. 6, 7, maybe a little bit longer. Not 10 years ago, but a little bit less. He then bought the Lakers and is selling them for a record $12.5 billion. Bought the Dodgers for $2 billion. Would you say the Dodgers are worth $2 billion right now? No, of course not. They're worth more than the Padres. They would have to be. Number one, because of the local TV contract. The value of a local TV contract in a market like Los Angeles. A global brand because of Shohei, like the Dodgers, and other reasons like the Dodgers. Whew. So excited. He owns a piece of Chelsea and is reportedly heading for the exit there too. Mark Walter is under federal investigation and looking at the insurance companies he controls and how billions of dollars in loans to and from his businesses were labeled. He has not been charged with anything. Full stop. So on our quick hits today, who Mark Walter actually is, how big this empire got, how insurance money quietly became the fuel for sports franchises, why the Dodgers you watch win every year sit at the top of a financial structure almost nobody outside of Wall Street understands, the federal probe, the phone the FBI took off his plane, and the December math he's racing against, and the part that should scare you even if you never watch a Dodgers game, whose money is actually underneath all of it. So, Mark Walter is the CEO of Guggenheim Partners and of TWG Global, the holding company over his sports teams, his AI bets, and importantly, his insurance companies. Per Bloomberg, Guggenheim's money management arm oversees about $362 billion. Read that one more time. $362 billion. Okay? Per Bloomberg, on July 20th, federal prosecutors in Manhattan and the SEC are investigating two of Walter's insurers, Delaware Life and Clearspring, and Guggenheim. It's an investigation, no charges. TWG says it's cooperating and confident it resolves in its favor. Per Bloomberg and Crane's Chicago business. Last September, FBI agents executed a search warrant on Walter's private plane at Chicago Midway and seized his phone and laptop. An owner of the Dodgers and the Lakers and the feds were boarded a jet. Per reporting on its restated 2025 financials, Delaware Life said its affiliated investments were about 42% of its invested assets. The number it had originally stated was about 3%. 3 to 42 is not a rounding error, and that's kind of the story, okay? While all this was happening, Walter agreed to sell the Lakers for a record $12.5 billion 10 months after he purchased it for $10 billion from just the Buss family. I don't think there was an intermediary. It was owned for 42 years by the Buss family. Then this guy bought it, had it for 10 months, and just flipped it. Per the Financial Times, he's in talks to also sell his Chelsea stake too. Todd Boehly, who's also a part of Guggenheim with him, also owns parts of Chelsea and I think a professional football team. I cannot think off the top of my head. Maybe I have it in the writing. So whose money is it? Well, he's moved from one thing to the other. And he owns the company that owns them. So who's Mark Walter? Which I think the reporting is doing a good job of. One man, the Dodgers, the Lakers, Chelsea, Cadillac F1, the National Wiz Hockey League, $362 billion of assets under management. Most fans know the team and have never even heard of Mark Walter. Mark Walter is a Chicago financier, and in 2012, a group he led bought the Los Angeles Dodgers out of bankruptcy. Okay, 14 years ago. They bought it for $2.15 billion. I thought it was less than 10. It's more than 10. My bad. In 2012, a group he led bought the Los Angeles Dodgers out of bankruptcy for $2.15 billion, a record at the time. And everyone said he overpaid. He did not overpay, and we're going to get to why. Per Bloomberg and Front Office Sports, Walter is CEO of Guggenheim Partners and of TWG Global, the holding company that sits over his sports assets, AI ventures, and insurance companies. Per Bloomberg's reporting, since he bought the Dodgers, Guggenheim's assets under management have grown to roughly $362 billion. Public reporting also states that beyond the Dodgers, Walter's sports portfolio has included the Lakers, the LA Sparks, a stake in Chelsea Football Club, the founding of the Women's Professional Hockey League, and interest tied to F1, IndyCar, and NASCAR. Forbes and NBC also report he bought the Lakers at around $10 billion late in 2025 and agreed to sell for $12.5 billion. We've said this before. So this is not a hobby owner. This is one of the largest asset managers in the country who also happens to own a chunk of every single thing you see in sport. And the two things, the money business and the sports business, are not in separate boxes. That's the entire point of like why we need to talk about it in such detail today. They are wired together, and the wire runs through the insurance companies that he owns. He didn't buy a baseball team with baseball money. He built a machine, a money-making and money-printing machine. And the teams are the shiny parts of what he gets to do with that money. And notice the shape of the empire. Empire, it really is. Before we even get to the trouble part, Walter didn't get rich being famous. He got rich owning the thing underneath the famous thing. The fancy Shohei Ohtani, Walter owns the balance sheet Ohtani stands on. The $700 million guaranteed contract that Shohei is being paid $2 million for this year with $640 million of deferred money. Freddie Freeman's got deferred money, I think. Mookie Betts has deferred money, I think. So he's doing all this. This guy's not dumb, right? And he's playing by the rules. And everyone's saying, well, everybody in Major League Baseball is like, let's have a salary cap. Look at the Dodgers. We're going to limit what the Dodgers are able to do. But the Dodgers are doing things that other teams aren't even doing. Before we go deeper, did you even know the same guy owned the Dodgers and the Lakers and part of Chelsea and Cadillac F1 and teams in IndyCar and NASCAR and the National Women's Hockey League? Because the invisibility is part of how this works. The less you know of Guggenheim, TWG Global, Mark Walter himself, the more freedom him and his team, the companies have to operate. Okay, so the machine. Which we need to get to so that you can actually have these conversations with, I had it with my barber yesterday. Shout out Terrence and the cut on Elliott Road in Ahwatukee Chandler. We have to be able to understand the things that are happening here. Here's how life insurance and annuities are supposed to work. You pay premiums. Grandma pays into an annuity for 30 years. So she gets a check every month when she retires. The insurance company is sitting on a giant pile of that premium cash. And it doesn't just leave it in a drawer, it invests it historically in boring, safe stuff like bonds. Because someday it has to pay grandma. There has to be liquid on the other end. Traditionally, it should be dollar for dollar to pay grandma, and the one job is to be able to pay grandma. She's paying a premium now for the ability to have money later. Let me repeat that, because I work in insurance. Annuities are stuff old people get, maybe a little bit younger. They pay a premium, and then once they retire, they reach a certain place at a certain age, they get money back. I'm trying to get you to some reporting that was done to show on screen, but I can't find it. It's per a June 2026 Morton study by Amy Huber and co-authors. Private equity owned insurers had about 60.8% of their 2024 structured security investments issued by affiliated entities versus about 1.7% for other insurers. So I wanted to dive further into that. I have so many tabs open to cover this. Yes. Buying from the family, private equity owned insurers and their affiliated investments. We love SSRN, future sponsor of the show, I hope. Private equity firms increasingly own insurers as direct subsidiaries. This ownership places insurers within organizations that also originate, manage, and scrutinize credit assets. We study whether and on what terms insurers directly owned by PE firms providing financing to affiliated credited businesses. I was able to get into it for some of our research today, and it's been cited elsewhere for the other things that are happening, but this is part of the conversation, right? Private equity firms like Guggenheim, are using these insurance companies to circulate money. And to put that money, they need to invest that money, and they're putting the money into what is the thing that we've talked about that doesn't go down in value? Sports teams. Per the study, which I did not have open, just the abstract, when buying the same security on the same day, PE-owned issuers paid systematically higher prices to affiliated insurers, implying more favorable terms for those issuers. Per Bloomberg, Manhattan prosecutors are examining whether Delaware Life and ClearSpring failed to disclose that billions in private credit holdings backed other parts of Walter's businesses. That's the most important part. Manhattan prosecutors are examining whether Delaware Life and ClearSpring failed to disclose that billions in private credit holdings backed other parts of Walter's businesses. That's what all of this hinges on. Say it's all a house of cards. And I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it is. If that were to happen, all of potentially much of what we see in professional sports that he owns, it's uncertain what's going to happen to those. Are other people going to swoop in and buy it? Why? Because professional sports is what's going on. Are other people doing this? We don't know. So that's why it's important, because his fingers touch so much of the things that we talk about. Per reporting on Delaware Life's restated 2025 financials, affiliated investments were about 42% of invested assets, up from roughly 3% originally stated. Here's the thing you have to understand, and I want to be fair about the thing that we're talking about. An affiliated investment is not automatically bad, and it is not illegal. Insurance companies invest in related businesses all the time. The reported problem in this case is not he invested in his own stuff. The reported problem is disclosure and whether it was labeled truthfully. So why does the label matter so much? Let me give you the cleanest version that I know, that I can pull out, that I can see. This is from Jeff Passan's reporting with Tom Gober, a forensic accountant who has worked these cases for 40 plus years, who was part of the original 2014 claim class action suit against Mark Walter, but I think broadly Guggenheim and TWG Global. If two totally separate companies do a deal, you can trust the price is fair because each side is looking out for itself. But if Mark Walter in one chair is doing a deal with Mark Walter in the other chair, he can set whatever terms he wants. So the regulators say, fine, you can do that, but you have to disclose it so somebody can check that the deal was fair. If you hide that affiliation and nobody can check, that's part of the problem. Who's doing the enforcing? Where are the rules? Are people following the rules? Many of the banks, this is in line with, they're not exactly what we saw in 2008. In 2008, banks were over leveraging and over lending money out to people to buy homes. Mortgage crisis, CBOs. That's not happening as much, I would hope, because they are being policed and enforced so that doesn't happen again from financial and fiduciarily backed institutions like banks. But the comparison that I'm drawing is private equity firms are taking money and putting it into assets without the disclosures in the case that we're seeing that should have been in place. And so who's enforcing it? Well, now, is there going to be enforcement if there was actually something on the back end that is seen to be or deemed to be nefarious? And we haven't seen the final reporting from anybody. The leagues are not getting involved. They're just sort of waiting and seeing what happens. They're not punishing anybody. We have to wait until what the federal government or the federal investigation says. But what I'm seeing, see what's being done. If he didn't need the money, he's not selling the Lakers for $12.5 billion a year after he bought it. You don't do that if nothing's the problem. Reporting is happening about whether or not they're going to sell their stake in Chelsea. Reporting is happening on whether or not they're going to sell their stake in the Dodgers. The crime, if there is one, hasn't been one. All of this is reporting and investigative journalism and forensic accounting. If there is one, it isn't self-dealing, it's doing it with the lights off. And this is where the past shows up. In 2014, 2 annuity holders filed a civil complaint against Walters Insurance conglomerates. The complaint alleged, according from the complaint, not stating a fact, that the group used the Guggenheim insurers as a cash machine to buy the most expensive sports franchise in the world. I'm sorry, let me read that again. Use the Guggenheim insurers as a cash machine to buy the most expensive sports franchise in world history. The Los Angeles Dodgers with over $1 billion in policyholder funds. That was the alleged complaint from 2014 from annuity holders saying, quote, the group used the Guggenheim insurers as a cash machine to buy the most expensive sports franchise in the world in its history. The Los Angeles Dodgers with over $1 billion in policyholder funds. The case was withdrawn. The day after it was filed, dismissed without prejudice, and per Gober, it later settled. Nothing was proven in court. 12 years later, federal investigators are reportedly asking about the same thing, affiliated money and whether it was disclosed. Every insurer invests in float. Warren Buffett built Berkshire Hathaway on insurance float. So what's the honest line between smart use of float and a problem? The problem is disclosure. Now, the Dodgers. The best run money machine in American sports. Purchased 2012, 14 years ago. For 2.15, sorry. I don't have it in front of me, right? 2.1 whatever billion dollars. At the time, the most ever for a sports franchise. And now sports franchises 12 years later are being, the numbers are astronomically larger. Okay? They're also incredibly well run as a baseball organization. They have always had a strong minor league program, a strong farm system. They have always traded for, brought up the right players, made the right decisions. There were stretches in the early 2000s, that they weren't competing at the highest level. But over the last 15 years, like, name a team that's been more successful. And you could say, it's due in large part because of the money that they're able to spend different than other teams. And that's totally fair. But they're spending the most money and doing it the best. The Yankees could spend better and could do better, but they're not. They're not competing at the same level as the Dodgers. It's the only one that's comparable, and the Dodgers, and the amount of money that they're making, and the amount of winning that they're doing is dwarfing other teams. So I'm not telling you that the Dodgers payroll is illegal money at all. Nobody has shown that. The Dodgers are a spectacular standalone business in themselves. They made $1 billion last year. giving you what I know and what I've learned and what I see, and letting you ask your own questions. Per long-standing reporting on the 2013 deal, the Dodgers' local TV contract with Time Warner Cable was worth about $8.35 billion over 25 years, the richest local rights deal in the sport. Per that reporting and our own prior coverage, a bankruptcy court quirk let the Dodgers pay revenue sharing on a far lower TV valuation early on. An advantage rival teams estimated has saved them hundreds of millions of dollars over the lifetime value of the deal. Per the Financial Times and the Mispriced Assets Substack, which is fantastic, roughly $1.5 billion of debt tied to the Dodgers TV network, Sportsnet LA, via a company the Dodgers created, has been held by insurance companies connected to members of the Dodgers ownership group, including Delaware Life and ClearSpring. Per the reported terms of Shohei Ohtani's December 2023 contract, $700 million over 10 years with $680 million deferred and paid later. So the Dodgers pay him about $2 million in cash per year during the deal. The connected lines, just with the evidence. Not one. The Dodgers built a company to run their TV network, and it issued about $500 million $1.5 billion in debt. Dot two, a big chunk of that debt is held by insurance companies affiliated with the ownership group. That is reported, and affiliated debt is legal. What I can't tell you, because nobody has the receipts publicly, is how much of the Dodgers' recorded payroll traces to that money. We don't make one-for-one links. I don't make one-for-one links. I can't prove. We can't prove that. We can't prove that the amount of money that the Dodgers are paying, we can't connect the dollars that way because we just don't have the ability to do that. No reporting has shown the ability to do that. Now the deferrals, because this is part that's genuinely clever. It is clever and genuinely worth understanding. Ohtani's deal is $700 million, but $680 million is pushed years down the road. We talked about this with Dr. Tingle the other day. Okay, they're pushing it down the road. What if they don't have that money? They might. They probably will. The Dodgers pay almost nothing in cash today and promise a mountain later. And that's not cheating. They're within the rules of what Major League Baseball allows teams to pay their players. Bobby Bonilla, it makes $1 million a year over 25 years from the New York Mets, or 30 years, or whatever it is. It moves the bill. It moves what's due further into the future. The Dodgers didn't just sign the best player ever. They financed him like a house. And here's the question that actually matters for today's story. Whose money is it? A promise to pay somebody hundreds of millions in the 2030s is only as good as the company making the promise. So if you're an annuity holder whose money is tangled up in the same universe of affiliated bets, you might reasonably ask the same question a Dodgers fan should ask about a deferral. Will the money actually be there when the bill comes due? Does it matter? Does any of this matter? My question to you. Dodgers are winning World Series. So does it matter? Are the Dodgers a genius operation that everybody else is too timid to copy? Or a team playing a financial game no one else can play? Other teams could be more aggressive, right? Other teams own their own TV network to go direct to their fans. What the Dodgers are doing, other teams are not able to do because of how favorable the debt in the local TV contract has been for the Dodgers, that allows them to not share the totality of what's earned as other teams do, but a percentage of that. Does that mean that he should be in trouble because the insurance companies are doing whatever? No, I mean, like, this is like the business of the Dodgers. But they all tie together because all of the same companies own each other. The Dodgers make more and share less than the rest of the teams in baseball. And from the reporting that I've seen, it's not even close. part that broke this whole thing into the open, the part that broke this whole thing into the open this summer, and nobody's been charged. Per Bloomberg, federal prosecutors in Manhattan and the SEC are investigating Guggenheim and two Walter-controlled insurers, Delaware Life and ClearSpring, over how affiliated loans were disclosed. Per Bloomberg and Crane Chicago Business, as we read earlier, the FBI executed. You try to read this much. The FBI executed a search warrant and seized Walter's phone and laptop from his private plane in Chicago Midway. Delaware Life and ClearSpring received grand jury subpoenas in February. Per reporting, the transactions under scrutiny involve a pool of roughly $16 to $20 billion in loans the two insurers extended to businesses connected to Walter or TWG Global. Per Yahoo Finance and CNBC, TWG Global agreed to buy up to $6.5 billion in affiliated assets from Delaware Life, swapping in unaffiliated assets, and hired a former Goldman Sachs and DOJ veteran David Markowitz as its top lawyer. Money math to plain English. Walter's insurers are reportedly carrying something like $20 billion in loans to his own world, the world that we inhabit, and the regulators, the enforcers, are unhappy about that. To fix it, that money has to be swapped out for money from companies he doesn't control. That's what the $6.5 billion Delaware Life swap is. It's the start of unwinding. This is a margin call with a scoreboard. Replace the family money with stranger money. And it's on a clock. And now, look at the sports moves in that light. Per Bloomberg and CNBC, we talked about it, he obviously agreed to sell the Lakers for a record $12.5 billion about 10 months after buying them, clearing a reported profit around $2.5 billion. He's in talks to sell Chelsea. Nobody has said the team sales are because of the probe. I'm not saying that. Legally. Alleged. Walter says the Dodgers are not for sale. But when the man with the best seats in sports starts selling the right as he needs, billions in clean cash, in my view, you're at least allowed to ask why. And that's what we're doing. We're asking why. The market is asking. Per S&P Global, Delaware Life's outlook was cut to negative. Per reporting, some of the debt tied to the universe has been traded down hard as investors got nervous. Nervous is not guilty. Prices move on fear, not verdicts. Sometimes verdicts. But the smart money is watching this like a hawk, and that tells you it's real. If you're Walter's crisis communications person today, what's your move? Sell fast and quiet, or plant your feet and fight? Because those are two totally different strategies, and he seems to be doing a little of both. The systematic question, this isn't really about baseball. It's grandma's annuity. Offshore reinsurance. And who's watching? That part has nothing to do with sports. We talked about how the Dodgers were run, how they're doing things that other teams aren't able and capable of doing. We did not say that it's because of this mess. It is a mess. You don't sell the Lakers after a year after buying them if it's not a mess. It's a mess. It's messy. If nothing happens from this, he doesn't get in trouble. Fine, he doesn't get in trouble, but he's already sold the Lakers. So we have to touch on what the Dodgers are doing and why the Dodgers are so lucrative, because that's part of his empire. An empire we care a lot about because we love sports. We love the businesses that he owns. We love them. If this were just about one rich guy and one baseball team, it'd be gossip, but it's bigger than that. I'm sure he's a nice guy. This is not about that. We're analyzing the way that it affects us as sports fans. Per the Wharton study I touched on earlier, and industry reporting, private equity moving into life insurance and annuities is a broad, industry-wide shift and not a single company's story. Affiliated investing across PE-owned insurers has grown sharply. Per longtime forensic accountant Tom Gober that we mentioned earlier, a large share of certain reinsurance today is internal, moving risk to affiliated companies, sometimes through captives in place like Vermont or offshore, where outsiders cannot see the other end of the deal. After 2028, Dodd-Frank the law passed after 2028, briefly let regulators designate big insurers as systematically important, but a legal challenge, the MetLife case, rolled much of that oversight back. Per Gober's public comments, much of what we've seen from his appearance on Jeff Passan's podcast, and his view, the ultimate responsibility sits with state insurance regulators whose job is to protect the policyholders, not the insurers. So here's why you, a person who may never buy an annuity, should still care. The money underneath these bets belongs to regular people, retirees, somebody's grandma who bought a policy so she'd have a check at 80. When that money quietly gets moved into riskier, harder to see places, the person taking the risk often doesn't know they're taking it. I'm not saying anyone's pension is about to vanish. I'm saying the whole point of insurance is to get rid of risk. That's why you pay a premium. And the reported worry is that some of that risk got quietly handed back to the people who paid to be rid of it. The scariest sentence in finance, the person carrying the risk doesn't know they're carrying it. And this is the honest, uncomfortable ending to the news part of our show. A show we had to talk on. I couldn't just do 5 minutes on this. We don't know how this resolves. Walter hasn't been charged. TWG says it's cooperating. It may all get unwound cleanly and the Dodgers keep winning and nobody's grandma ever feels a thing. That's real, and I hope that happens. But the reason this is the biggest story in sports is that same structure that may have helped buy the most valuable team on earth also runs through the retirement accounts of millions of people who have never heard of Mark Walter. That's not a sports story. That's an everybody story. Is this a Mark Walter problem? Is it a whole industry problem? Is it a TWG, PE, Guggenheim problem? So whose money is it? Forensic accounting, annuities. Now you're an expert. You know more than 99% of people. Every story today was a version of that question. Whose money bought the Dodgers and Lakers and Cadillac F1 and part of Chelsea and the National Women's Hockey League? Whose money is in the TV debt? We had to talk about the TV contract. It's why the Dodgers can spend so much and defer so much. Whose money backs those deferrals? Whose money is the FBI asking about? And the reason it's the sharpest question in business is that the answer is almost never on the label. We almost never know. Every deal has two numbers, the headline and the truth. We said it all the time. We say it every single day on the show. The Dodgers cost $2.15 billion. That's the headline. The truth is a machine of affiliated loans and TV debt and deferred hundreds of millions that most people never saw coming. That people will see in the 2030s. These ball players that deferred their contracts so that there's more liquid cash up front to buy teams now. Where's that money coming from? To be fair, most of that is legal. And some of the smartest investors alive use float this way. The problem, reportedly, allegedly, investigatedly, is the label. So here's the part that's about you. The reason I do this show from zero, every single day, you are going to be handed money your whole career. Signing bonuses, endorsement checks, investment opportunities, you the athlete. From a guy who knows a guy. Are you going to take the tempted money and the headline number and say yes? Or are we going to say whose money is this and what does it want? Because money is never just money. It comes with terms. Read the term sheet. We talk about that all the time. When somebody offers you a check, they're offering you a structure. And the structure is where you win or lose. Is it your equity or a loan you have to pay back? Is it clean money or is it tangled into 5 other things that you can't see? If it blows up over here, does it take you down over there? The people who get wrecked in business almost never get wrecked by the headline. They get wrecked by the part of the deal that they didn't read. Nobody ever went broke reading the term sheet. Well, they might have if it's a bad term sheet, bad deal. plenty go broke reading just the headline, metaphorically. Transparency is what you should seek. It's how you should do business. Everything should be transparent. Nah, I mean, obviously not everything. People are going to be like, well, not everything should be transparent. No. Transparency builds trust. And right now, do we trust the things that are happening? Do we trust why there's so much money moving into sports? Not the amount, it's the fact that you could see all the way through the things that I was doing. We were always saying, as a nonprofit with More Than Baseball, we raised money for baseball players. We talked about with Jake earlier. We could account for all of it. That was our number one priority. Major League Baseball, Major League Baseball Players Association, Major League Baseball players trusted us with their money that they worked their entire lives for. And the one thing that we promised was transparency, and we gave them that, and that is the trust that you get to earn in the marketplace. Wasn't the amount. I've seen an account that we helped own and start, More Than Baseball, 2 commas in it. It was just a line, and it like took me back. Wow. We did that, and now we get to be transparent with what that money is doing, because we're a nonprofit, and we get to give it back to guys who deserve it. And they trusted us, and the league trusted us. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. If you listen to me once or every day, you'll be like, that's not the smartest guy in the room. No. But I learned early that money you can't explain is the money that eventually explains you. Put another way, if people can't trust you, and if you can't be transparent with them, or if they can't know exactly where you stand 100% of the time, that's a problem. Why is that important? Because we have an audience of athletes who want to start businesses. And what's the most important thing? Being open, honest, and transparent about the work that you're doing, what the money is doing, where they're paying you to do stuff. That's the most important thing, is trust. I'm as honest and as authentic as I can be. The counterpoint to all this is because I promised honesty and non-hype. Just ask whose money is it? It's easy for me to say from my desk. When you're a broke minor leaguer or a rookie with your first real check, you take the money and you ask questions later. Obviously, you know it's coming from your employer, and your employer makes billions of dollars a year. Because you need to eat. But the pros, the people at the very tippity top, the 0.01% of the 0.01%, the Mark Walters of the world, they think about the structure first and the headline second, and that's not a coincidence. That's the whole game. When the smart money obsesses over structure, then you, the athlete, who I'm talking to in our audience, people building a business or people in sports, should too. Your job is to find the truth. Your job is to trust your gut. Your concrete action this week, next time money shows up in any form, before you say yes, ask 3 questions. Whose money is it? What does it want back? And what happens to me if it goes wrong? Maybe the answers are great and you sign happily and fine. But you'd be shocked how often nobody asked because the athlete didn't think that they were allowed to. We talk a lot about this on this show, about making connections and selling, trading your audience for equity. But trust who you get into bed with. Because it's important. The risk that you take is reputational. The Dodgers, Guggenheim, all of these insurance companies, they're all connected. And the question right now is, what's going on? And we don't know. And it affects us. It affects us as fans. It doesn't affect our wallets. Yet, maybe not yet. But if some of these companies are publicly listed and there's a sell-off, how's that going to trickle into the rest of the economy? How's this going to affect the annuity holders? The people who have spent maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in premiums and they don't know where the money that they're going to get is back? And I wouldn't have done this if there was nothing to see here and Mark Walter like put the Lakers like up for sale and nobody had bought it yet, and they're like, well, we're just kind of testing the markets like other teams do all the time. The Washington Nationals were like on the block for a long time. But the first thing we heard was Bob Iger and Joshua Kushner buy the Lakers for $12.5 billion over a weekend. So if there was nothing to see here, then maybe everybody's blowing this out of proportion. And if there's nothing to see here, and maybe he just like didn't want the Lakers anymore. It's not really about baseball. But the way that money moving into sports is affecting us. Money is moving around in ways that we, the people, can't see, and it's affecting us. It's affecting the things that we love. Grandma and the Dodgers. So I hope this helped. I hope this helped. Help me think through the problems. What are the problems? We don't know where the money is coming from or is. We also don't know what's going to happen from this. What we do know is how we can relate these types of things back to the thing that we're currently doing. Number one, know where the money is coming from if you ever do a deal. We know all of this stuff that's happening with the Los Angeles Clippers, the Kawhi stuff, what backroom dealings, what the money from the tree planting company, affirmation. They went bankrupt and their CEO is in prison or whatever for 10 years. And if you invested in them, you got nothing back. So it can happen at a high level. Affirmation. It can happen at the highest level with maybe the company that owns the most professional sports arms franchises in the world. But it raises the same question a retiree should ask about her annuity. Will the money be there when the bill comes due? A huge thank you to my guest, Jake Sudreth, today. Thank you. Thank you for being here. The show is presented by Athletes Fund. And this was a lot of fun to be able to dive further into this and to have this conversation with you. And I cannot wait until I see you again tomorrow. Thanks.